Are you looking for a really great cruise vacation but staying close to home? Stay tuned as we do a review of American Cruise Lines. Joining me today are Chris and Tracy Archer, owners of Good Life Travel Group, located in Cumming, Georgia. Chris says he provides travel experiences and not vacations. Together with his wife Tracy, they've been traveling the world and helping others to experience great vacations. Just this summer, Chris and Tracy cruised the Colombia Snake rivers on the American Jazz by American Cruise Lines. Hi, folks. Welcome back to RTE Travel Talk.
Good morning.
Well, and thanks for having us back, Ken. We appreciate being here.
Great to have you with us. So, listen, folks, we get a lot of interest and comments from viewers about American Cruise Lines, especially when we actually did a comparison of American Queen Voyages and Viking. So for those folks that are big fans of American Cruise Lines, I thought we could spend a little time today talking about that because I know you just recently came off a voyage with American Cruise Lines. How does that sound?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Perfect. Why don't we start with just a quick 30,000 foot level look at it? Tell us where you went, what ship you were on, and your general thoughts on it, and then we can go into some questions.
Okay, great. Well, American Cruise Lines, I don't know if you're familiar, but they've been around for 50 years.
Right.
They're always owned by the same family, the Robertsons. They started out with the shipyard and still build their own ships today. And they have all different styles, paddle wheel ships, modern ships, and now they even have what's called the Coastal Cats.
Okay.
That are doing the intercoastal in New England. And Tracy and I are scheduled on one of those. So we also did the Mississippi River, New Orleans to New Orleans, and then, of course, just recently got off the Colombia Snake River.
So you spent quite a bit of time with American Cruise Lines. I gather you escorted a group itinerary on the Colombia Snake River. Perhaps you could give us a look at that voyage.
Oh, great. Well, it started in Clarkston, Washington, which is right across the river from Lewiston, Idaho. And of course, those two towns are named after Lewis and Clark,
Right,
who were the first pioneers to trek the river and discover it for us. The cruise was kind of based around that theme of Lewis and Clark. We arrived a day early and did the jet boat ride through the canyon, and then the next day we boarded the ship and we headed to Richland, Washington. And this is where Richland, Washington was where the Columbia and Snake Rivers come together.
Oh, okay.
So really the first day was the only day on the Snake River.
Yeah.
And the jet boat ride, that was up the Snake.
Yeah. We arrived in Richland, Washington. Sacagawea State Park is there, and that's the park that kind of highlights the convergence of the two rivers, and well worth a visit.
Was it a 5-day voyage or one of the longer ones that you guys were on?
It was a 7-day.
Okay.
7-day voyage. You know, some of their trips, they also have a national park thing where you can go from Yellowstone all the way to Glacier, kind of a land tour.
Right.
So you can do that as well. You could combine that. We didn't do that because we've been to those areas before.
Right. But that option's there for folks.
That is there. And also in Richland, a boat parks right at the Columbia Park Trail. So you can walk up and down these paved trails for miles or ride a bike. There's a winery there, Longship Cellars. It's like a 10-minute walk because they're well known for their wine, which was a nice thing to do in the afternoon after we went to the state park and saw the convergence of the rivers.
We enjoyed the walking part because the food's so good. And
So, yeah, no, it sounds like it really is.
You know, their next stop was in Stevenson, Washington.
Right.
And before we even got there, we spent a whole day on the river.
So was it fairly scenic going down the river?
Very scenic.
Yeah.
it starts out real like
It's
you're in
more-
the desert.
Yeah, in Clarkston and Richland, it was a little bit more deserty hills.
Right.
But then it starts to change. The terrain changes.
So just a lot of, the greenery, and it just changes. It gets
So
greener as you go.
I was just enthralled just by watching how the scenery was changing. And there was a historian on board, but, I couldn't sit in front of him. I had to be out looking out at the thing and kind of listening. And then we got to Stephen, and that's where those famous falls, Multnomah
Right.
Falls. I'm sure most of your audience is probably familiar with them.
Yeah.
It's probably been in a lot of commercials, and got the walking footbridge that kind of stretches in the middle. It's 620 feet, and they've got a trail that you can walk up to the top. Tracy and I got pretty close to the top.
So I would gather that all the videos and pictures in the world don't do it justice for actually being there, right?
Absolutely, and it's a short drive from the ship So, definitely worth I don't think anybody on the ship missed that one. So,
Yeah.
Right. So they would take you by bus probably up there to that excursion, would they?
they do.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
had nice
Just like,
coach buses every
just as in everywhere
excursion.
else.
So.
So tell me, what type of passenger do we normally find in American Cruise Lines, folks?
It was a
Right.
range, ages, I would say. We had people that were very active on the ship, and then there was some that were on there, that weren't so active and they just enjoyed staying on the ship. But I was impressed with some people that were there, but
55 to 75, or, was probably the
the
average
age, yeah.
age, mostly American.
Right. So
Mhm.
obviously the activities level is just going to really range for what people feel comfortable
And
with
you
doing.
could, you could do as little or as much as you want.
Right.
Really, they attract to everybody.
Yeah.
So
And can they, the ship always docked right in the middle of the town.
Right.
hmm
So it made it so convenient. Like I believe it was in Kalama, McMiniman's Lodge was right there. So they did and there was all kinds of totem poles in the town. So they did a little
stop and walk
walking
around.
tour.
Okay.
And then McMiniman's Lodge had a beer and bourbon. They make their own beer and bourbon as well. So they did tastings on that. And then in Astoria, they had the Maritime Museum, which was right off the ship again,
Yeah.
and a town you could walk around and do some shopping.
Very easy to get
So
on
most
and
of the
off.
towns had places you could go, and if you wanted to do some shopping, or you wanted to go to a brewery, or you wanted to just visit the town, you really got to see that, and that was one of the things that we really liked about it.
So very similar to a river cruise in Europe. You're parking into the heart of
Mhm.
the city in a lot of these towns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So great to get around. Many families on board, or is this a cruise line that is, that would be a good fit for families with perhaps, younger kids or teenagers?
I wouldn't think kids would enjoy it as much as the adults. You saw a lot of moms and daughters traveling, or groups of families like ours. We had like 12 people with us.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun. And single people, just couples as well, but didn't see a lot of kids on the boat.
Historian that was on board, I was very interesting, and but I don't, young
Kids would be bored.
I think kids would be probably bored on
Yeah.
the ship. And at night, and then after this story, and there was other entertainment, singers.
So in other words, it's probably not unless the kids are really into history, and they really have to be into history quite a bit. There's a very good chance of them being bored, and if your kids are bored, mom and dad are not going to have a great time.
Exactly.
That's right.
What about the time of year? When is the best time of year to do this itinerary?
I would say probably in August.
Okay.
In early September, because Pacific Northwest is known for rain, and that tends to be a little bit drier
And we did
season.
not. I don't think we had one day of rain.
Yeah, we had very nice weather. So
We had perfect weather.
What about the daytime temperatures? Was it fairly warm?
The beginning, it was very warm, like
and then yes,
mid 80s.
because in that deserty area of Richland and Clarkston, it was a little warmer, but it got cooler as we got down the river.
Towards the Pacific, it got cooler.
Okay. Remind me, what was the ship that you guys were on again?
We were on the Jazz. These are the more modern ships.
Right.
Like I said before, they have paddle wheel style ships, but those are kind of themed, and core is from day gone by,
Exactly.
related to that time of history, where the Harmony and the Jazz, the two that we have been on, are more modern. The ship's very easy to get around.
And lots of outdoor space that you can sit on every level. You could go on
Little
any level
porches
and
on the
have great
sides, and
rocking chairs.
The Harmony and the Jazz, are they primarily on the Columbia Snake River?
No, they're because we went on the Harmony on the Mississippi. Yeah, so they're pretty much on all of the rivers that they do.
Okay.
Because they go all the way from St. Louis, all the way down to New Orleans. They have some quite long journeys. They're even getting into these world cruise kind of deals where they're doing all the rivers, where they do even involve some plane rides to get it to the next location to get back on the river. They're in Alaska. Like I said, they're in New England. They go all the way down the intercoastal from up in New England all the way down to South Carolina. They do all kinds of different things.
So they have a lot of options for the rivers of the United States.
Absolutely. And they're very, very pro-American. They build all their own ship. They honor all the veterans. And also they have committed all of their ships, if there ever was a wartime and those ships were needed, they've already pledged that they would, turn them over to them
Oh, fantastic.
in wartime if they needed them.
So really committed, obviously.
Yes.
So obviously a family-run operation, and it filters down to everybody that works for them.
Yes.
We talked about the American Jazz, and you mentioned she's fairly modern. How did you find your staterooms and amenities on board?
It's about our room, which was
We're on level 4, so it really was a great level to be on because of the lounges were on either end of our floor. So
yes, we could definitely
to
can
breakfast.
recommend those kinds of things. It was
Yeah.
easy to get back and forth from our room on either end of the ship. Our room was 350 square feet.
That's a
nice
good
size and a nice balcony to sit on. It was nice and spacious. The bathroom was nice and big, but it was nice and spacious.
Exactly. And 350 square feet, that's a good size room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they start at 270, the smallest ones.
Oh, really?
So yes, they don't start in that 175 range. So
Oh, grand. One question that we always get is folks want to know about the dining. So how was the food on board?
we
I
enjoyed
liked
the
it.
food.
Yeah, the
Go
food
ahead.
was really nice and great presentation. The lunches were great. They would give you, many options, but just
And it was like 3 different options.
Mhm.
They usually would have some type of beef, some type of fish, and maybe vegetarian. They had
Sure.
options.
They
All
serve
the
wine at every meal.
yeah,
Or really
and you
any
were
kind.
asking about the amenities before. Of course, all the food is included,
Right.
but they also had like a happy hour every day. But if you wanted a Bloody Mary in the morning, you could get. I mean, you could
There was one bar that was open, which was
all
not
day
the way
long.
on the other cruise that we were on, but all day long if you wanted to have anything. But
So-
it's nice to be able to get it if you wanted it.
Obviously, food is included. Are spirits included as part of your fare?
Mhm.
Yes,
They are.
Mhm.
and they did a continental type of breakfast upstairs. Outside the dining room as well, where if you didn't want to go to the dining room, you could. But it was still good variety of
And the
stuff, even
outdoor
in that.
grill thing on the
Oh,
back
yeah.
of the ship. For if you didn't want to go down to the dining room, they had a grill in the morning and
great.
at lunch.
Or you could get a
do
burger or
hamburgers
pizza or something like
Yeah.
that.
something more casual and sit outside.
So obviously, due to the size of the ships, you're not going to have a ton of dining options. You mentioned the outside grill and the main dining room. I would assume that would be it. In terms of the dining, and you're visiting different ports, is there any local fare that might have been served in the dining room correspond with where you were?
Huckleberry. They were big on Huckleberry because it was in their area, but they had Huckleberry ice cream, Huckleberry anything, but it was in their region, so they could get a lot of it, I guess.
Right.
But not necessarily. It was pretty much American kind of fare.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a lot of local regional stuff.
How about the entertainment on board?
They would bring, they had a group of 3 guys that did several nights. I think they were out of Disney. It was hard to get people up and going. One night we started the Congo line, and I said, I'm going to start it. And we did, and everyone got up. It was so much fun.
Yeah. But they would bring in just like off, they would just normally,
Local
and then they would
people.
bring local people from that town in to do entertainment. And
Where
it was
locals were
entertaining
better.
and they did a good job.
Yeah.
They were funny. They combined it with jokes and whatever, but
Yeah.
they kept the audience pretty attentive with it.
So in other words, it could be something kind of different every night, depending on what town you were in. And we're not going to get Broadway shows or anything like that on board these ships because they don't have the size. But quite often, what we've heard is this local entertainment is a lot more interesting, a lot more fun than perhaps some of the Broadway shows.
Right.
Yeah, it is. But I think that people, when they go on a ship like this, if they enjoy history and, the historians are very knowledgeable, they keep you up to date all the way down the river. They're continuing the story of Lewis and Clark. They're telling you a little bit more each day until we get to
port or whatever.
Right. Makes sense. Now, I've heard that there is actually themed itineraries or cruises with American Cruise Lines. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I would say every cruise is themed as far as history goes,
Right.
with Lewis and Clark and the Civil War and on the Mississippi. But there's other ones. They have wine cruises. There's I believe it's a tulip festival cruise. So yeah, they do have those types of cruises as well.
Oh, fantastic. So how do they compare in terms of price point as compared to, for example, American Queen voyages or perhaps uncruise adventures that offer the kind of similar itineraries in the Northwest? Where would they fall in in the range?
I would say they're probably on the higher end.
Okay. We talked earlier about it being kind of all inclusive. So what all is included in an American Cruise Lines fare?
The meals, beverages, and
Most of,
almost all of the excursions as well.
but they
There
did
were-
have a premium excursion that you could sign up for, right?
yeah, they
Couple
had
times we
some.
did
They
that.
had some, but I don't
But
think
they offer
on
included.
what we did. The only thing that we paid for is going the day before so we could do the jet boat ride.
What was your favorite thing about this particular voyage? Favorite memory? Putting you on the spot
I,
here.
I
I
just enjoyed the scenery as far as the drastic change of desert down to the greenery and all the way to the Pacific coast. And Cape Disappointment probably was our favorite excursion where the Pacific met into the river.
Yeah,
That was pretty cool.
that was in Astoria,
That was towards
Oregon,
the end.
where the Columbia ends in the Pacific, and we walked out to the lighthouse, and just seeing the river coming in,
And what they went through back then to find this river and get in there, and
it
all the
was
history of the shipwrecks and all of that was.
it's known as the graveyard of the Pacific because of just how treacherous it was to try to get into the mouth of the river from the ocean. And I would say Cape Disappointment and those Multnomah Falls were pretty cool, and as well as just being in the town, stopping,
Yeah.
having the ship dock in the towns and being able to experience those towns as well.
Interesting. Up here where we live, there are quite a number of, I suppose you could call them local historians. We tend to call them storytellers. They're just absolutely wonderful to go and listen to. And I kind of get the feeling from listening to you two that these historians that are on board these ships as you're going down the river, they're relaying stories and talking about history and that sort of thing. That is a large part of the fun of being on these cruise lines. Am I correct in that assumption?
I would say
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you've sailed with them a number of times. Are there any perks for repeat clients with American Cruise Lines?
There's the Eagle Society. To be in the Eagle Society, you only have to have done one trip with them.
Right.
I think if you do 10, you get the 11th free.
Fantastic. Well, folks, this is really super information. Is there anything else you might like to add about American Cruise Lines before we wrap up?
I would just say overall, I think that they're really looking out for the clients, and I just think overall it's a very nice cruise line. They do a good job, and it's so nice to be able to see our own country.
it's nice to see our rivers and stay in our country and see it.
That's right.
And I would tend to think it would pay to have the services of a real expert travel advisor to guide you through picking out the right particular cruise for American Cruise Lines.
I would think so because we would be able to say what excursions to do and what not to do, what to do, like for example, to know how to get to that winery, those kinds of things, to be able to just give little hints like that to.
Right. Yeah. So the expert handles the intangibles that people quite often don't think about.
Exactly right.
Wonderful. Wonderful. If folks wanted to find out more information about possibly booking a American Cruise Lines cruise with yourself or another cruise vacation, how would they do that?
They could contact me at goodlifetravelgroup.com, or they could send me an email at info@goodlifetravelgroup.com, or call me on my phone number, which is on the screen. Welcome a call and welcome to talk to them more about it.
Super. Now, one thing that I've noticed with you folks is you spent a lot of time traveling, and as expert travel advisors, that's the best thing to do to learn about all the products. So I always have to ask all of my guests, where are you guys off to next?
Well, we have a trip planned to South America on an Azamara ship coming up in January. It's going to start in Santiago, Chile, and go down around the point of South America, the tip, and come back up to the Falkland Islands and Buenos Aires. We've got a trip to Michigan in early summer with Tauck, so we're going to see Michigan and the Michigan Lakes, and then we're going to New England and Canada next fall. So we're going to be up your way, Ken. Maybe we can stop by and see you.
Well, that's definitely a date. And that Great Lakes excursion with Tauck Tours sounds like a very, very interesting expedition as well. We'll have to have you back to enlighten us with all your adventures aboard with Tauck. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
So, folks, with that, I'm just going to wish the two of you safe and happy travels. May the wind always be at your back, and I hope to see the two of you on a Lido deck sometime soon in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you, Ken.
Take care.
All All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that about wraps it up for today, folks. A very special thanks to my guests, Chris and Tracy Archer of Good Life Travel Group. If you would like to reach Chris and Tracy, I will leave their contact information in the description. If you'd like to reach us with a question or a suggestion for a future video, simply send a question to questions@realtravelexperts.com, visit our website, realtravelexperts.com, or leave a comment. We always respond. And as always, folks, if you enjoyed this content, a like, subscribe, and a ring of the bell is certainly appreciated and helps us to spread the word. So until next time, happy travels.